politics of fear and hate are wrong. We love you and politics of compassion
But America,
and love are right.
we are not going back.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Raised Red, Living Blue. We've got a special guest joining me today, Mr. Landon Britton, who is a 27-year-old young man living in the Huntsville area.
Yes, sir.
And he's running for his first ever political office. So this is a really, really big deal. But let's just start off with a little bit about you and,
Yeah. Well, first
what's
off,
your favorite color?
red. I know. Pretty radical. But I was born in Huntsville, lived there my whole life. I graduated from Hazel Green High School in 2017, and Hazel Green is part of District 21, which is where I'm running. And so again, I've just been in the area my whole life, other than I did go to the University of Alabama, spent 5 years there, one of which I was in Texas. So I've gotten some good experiences outside the state. I have family here. I consider Alabama my home. So,
Well, walk us through like your shift from being raised in a red household to now living, thinking, and politicking blue. So how did this political awakening happen?
So it was definitely not an overnight thing, I'll say. So, I was raised Methodist, went to church every Sunday. And so I feel like I have the stereotypical, I was told, oh, well, we vote Republican because they back our values.
Yeah.
And so kind of growing up in that, never really questioned it. It wasn't until I kind of got out on my own experiences that I was like, well, man, this is kind of butting heads with, what I was taught growing up. But I'll say at the root of it all. So I don't really go to church every Sunday anymore. I'm still a Christian though. But on the stained glass window at the very back of our church, something that I hold it near and dear. It was a verse saying, love one another as I have loved you. And that's really been my whole mantra with kind of my whole shift from being red to now living blue, is just loving everyone. I think that one side kind of sows more division, and I want to be on the side that is just more inclusive and loves everyone. So.
Yeah, which is very woke of
yes,
you.
I guess
that's something I don't understand. It's like treating each other with respect,
Yeah.
giving people a helping hand. Not necessarily. I mean, sometimes in life people do need handouts, but giving them a hand up is woke. Being inclusive is woke. It's just it blows my mind. But hearing you talk, it's very similar to a lot of the guests we have on.
Okay.
This is an exposure thing typically, okay? So a lot of people that are MAGA, I feel like are MAGA because it's a lack of exposure. If you're a MAGA elite, you just were raised around rich people who wanted the tax breaks and felt that they were better than everybody, wanted that separation of class systems. But if you're poor, you probably never left your hometown. There's probably not a lot of diversity in the hometown. So you get outside your hometown, you get exposed to all these people, and you're like, shit, man, all this stuff that they said about liberals is not necessarily accurate. I mean, these are good people that want to help people. Yeah. They're not demons. They're not pagans. They're not communists. So it's really interesting to hear the commonality in between the guests that Sloan and I have on from week to week. So that's really interesting. How do your parents feel about you running for office as a Democrat?
So I definitely would say my parents' biggest concern, which is very valid, is just the hostility. I feel like if I tell someone right away, oh, I'm running as a Democrat, I don't know what type of reaction I'll get. Whereas if I lead with, okay, these are the values that I am wanting to bring to the table, it's, oh, well, that sounds interesting. And then I drop the ball. Oh, I'm running as a Democrat. And it's like, But I would say, again, just kind of making sure that, I know there's going to be people, trolls, if you will. I feel like that's part of any kind of public, being in public presence now.
Yeah.
But it's something I'm willing to take on because I really believe in what I'm trying to usher in with just younger people getting involved and realizing, okay, if you don't like the state of things, now you have a direct route to change it. And I mean, it is not a quick route. This is definitely a slow route, but it's a change that needs to happen.
Have your parents expressed any dissatisfaction or disapproval, or are they just like, this is Landon, this is his journey,
I'll say when I told them, they were definitely shocked, but they were like, wow, like, okay, you seem to be really about this. Like, I can tell you're really passionate for it. And that's being raised, I was always taught, okay, if you're going to do something, give it your best. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm willing to take this leap, and I'm all in for it. So,
well, what happened, like with Sloan and I, was, after the election, it was really like, I think a day or two after, I was in the gym. I know it doesn't look like I gotta go to the gym, but every now and then I go to the gym. So I was in there, I was working out, and I was like, man, I've got to do something. And in our business, it's very hard because, a lot of our clients in real estate are MAGAs. And, if they get wind of you speaking out, I mean, you can go on social media and say liberals are baby killers, and you as a realtor, and you will maybe lose one or two blue dots. I mean, nobody's really going to crucify you or troll you over it. They're just going to be like, hell yeah. On the left side, that's not the case. There's definitely a double standard.
Yeah.
Which is why this, new approach of fighting fire with fire online, with Gavin Newsom and things like that, these other Democratic mayors across the country, is having such a powerful effect, because we've always gone high when they've gone low, and that has not served us very well. So one other question I want to ask about your parents, and then I'll leave them alone. Most people that are in this dual political party family kind of structure of red and blue, it's very contentious. Like, they don't want to bring up politics at the dinner table because it may start an argument. So, but I'm always curious. I've got a MAGA friend, for example.
Okay.
I've actually stopped asking him this, but for a while there, I was asking him, maybe once a month, like, how you think it's going? And it's just surprising to me. I know there is a shift. It's not happening as near of mindset. It's not happening as near as fast as I'd like it to, or I think it should be happening much faster. But it's really surprising that how dug in these people are. And they're like, if they don't say it's just going fantastic and this is the greatest president ever, they're like, hey, it's going to take some time. This is not an overnight thing. Just wait and see. Yeah. So I was just curious if your parents just at any point of going, things aren't going so great, or if they're still like,
I definitely would say so. I haven't asked my parents. It's been a thing where with my family, I just haven't. I know that I disagree on a lot of their stances. I know they'll disagree with a lot of my stances. Yeah. So we kind of I post what I post online. I talk about what I'm passionate about with my friends, but with my family, I really have just not crossed that line, because I kind of wanted to keep the peace. But now, with me announcing that I'm running, I've kind of come to terms like, okay, like, these types of conversations, it doesn't need to be as taboo. I feel like there's a lot of hostility. And if I can't stay loud and proud to my family, this is what I think, this is why I'm running. Yeah. And this is how I want Alabama to be. Like, I think they can put aside, oh, he's running as a Democrat, and see, oh, he has good ideas and wants the future to be better, Because
this is really technically the second time you've had to come out to your parents.
Yes, so that's...
The first time was hard enough, and now here you come again. But do you have any gay MAGA friends?
Okay.
Just think about if you do. These folks fascinate me, whether you are black, gay, lesbian, Latino, whatever it is, and you're like, Latinos for Trump. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I feel like I was at an Auburn tailgate, this has been several seasons ago, but there was a group of gay Republicans there, and just to hear them talk, I was like, the only assumption that I could make that made sense to me was like, these people have just been indoctrinated by their parents and what they're exposed to. But gosh, nowadays, because back then it was like, all right, gay rights front and center, there's this equality mindset really across the country. But now with LGBTQ rights, it's on the chopping block. Yep. You're under the microscope. You're in the crosshairs, really. So do you know any MAGA folks? Or
So I'll say I am not. I know of some gay MAGA people, I am not really associated. Like I don't hang out with them all the time. I do know of some gay friends that I'm like, okay, I think that they still consider themselves to be Republican, and I genuinely think it's just because they've spared themselves the headache of keeping up with politics.
Yeah.
And so again, it's kind of living in this double standard, like, oh, well, I'm not keeping up with it, but I guess I'm a Republican, like, you know, like is the closest kind of, or I guess the most typical set of gay friends I have that aren't Democrat or left-leaning. That's kind of where they're at. They just don't keep up.
I think that would be a really interesting debate for you to have, like in another, I would love to see it like in a YouTube or real content.
Yeah.
You know, that would be a really interesting debate. But like, we have a strong population on our brokerage of Latino agents, and they're Trump voters. And their mindset is like, hey, we came here legally.
Yeah.
You know, we did it the right way. But whether you're Latino or Black, I feel like, you know, there's some people that, gosh, how do I put this? There is, like, everybody's trying to get into this upper class and be a member of kind of elite American society. And, you know, we've got a Latino agent here who makes a ton of money. And, you know, he's wanting those tax brackets. Or breaks, and he's seeing himself, you know, starting to get into, you know, this space where he's earning a lot of money. And I think it's just, we like to look down on people, and, you know, or we like to be accepted. And so it's like, all right, I'm outside of the normal realm of what's considered to be an acceptable lifestyle, but I'm still accepted in my young Republicans group or something like that. It just fascinates me. So I was just curious if you had ever engaged in a conversation with that, but I think that would make some amazing content for you moving forward. All right, let's take a little break and we'll be right back.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots, we would love for you to connect with us on social media. We're on Instagram at raisedredlivingblue_pod and TikTok at raisedred_livingblue. Okay, back to the episode.
Yeah, so welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with Landon Britton, who is lost his mind and running for political office.
Couldn't have put it any better.
You know, I think a lot of us just said, you know, fuck it. We're going to put ourselves in the crosshairs because we have to do something. I know for me, I knew Project 2025 wasn't a joke.
Yeah.
I knew what Trump was saying. I knew he meant it. I knew when he said in front of a group of Christians, hey, just get me in office, you'll never have to vote again. I knew that was reality to him and what the game plan was. And I can just remember talking to my wife about it and just saying, man, I really feel like there's going to be some sort of a civil war that comes out of this. You know, it may not be bloodshed, but it may be, you know, there's just places where blue people live and places where red people live.
Yeah.
You know, where maybe the country just divides, you know, geographically. I don't know. You know, 8 months fast forward since, you know, Trump officially took office, you know, lots of people have left the country. Lots of people have left red states for blue states. But just back to me, I'm sure it's cost me some business, but I just didn't want to, if we find ourselves living in an authoritarian environment in a couple years, you know, I don't want to feel guilty that I just didn't do anything. Yeah. And so I know, you know, you felt inspired by that. Right after Christmas of the election where you started saying I need to do something.
That is correct. So I'd say probably for about a month after the election, I was like many, I'm sure, was in this headspace of, well, God, what are we going to do now? Like, because, you know, I'm a young adult in America right now, and so I keep on seeing like, oh my gosh, we're going to be dealing with this for the rest of my lifetime, I feel like. And so that's kind of really what spearheaded me to getting involved. So in December, right after the election, after about a month of self-pity wallowing, I started going to my county's local party. They meet every Thursday or every third Thursday. And that was really pivotal, like seeing, okay, my first meeting I went to, there's maybe 20 people. And then like each month it just kept on growing and growing to where they had to get a new venue space. And so it was like, wow, like I see people are getting, you know, yes, feeling defeated, but they're getting energized, they're mobilizing. And so once I kind of started getting involved with the county party, I started asking, okay, what else could I do? What could I do more? And so I decided to throw my hat into state representative for House District 21 because I was like, well, I've lived in this district my whole life. He ran unopposed in the last election, and we got to have options. And so I was like, I know I'm young, I know the odds are against me, but we need some sort of change. And so I have had no clue what I was getting into when I first just made this decision, but I'm so glad I did, because not only has it helped me with just getting in touch with people who think similarly, who are also fed up, who want to get involved but don't know how. I've been contacted by a bunch of those types of people, but it also has helped with getting to build communities locally again. I think that that's something that Democrats have gotten wrong for, I'd say, most of my whole lifetime. Is just, they pick a candidate and say, hey, vote for this guy the election year. There's no boots on the ground, door knocking, saying hey, we care about hearing about your values and what you want in government. I think that's the approach that I'm hoping to bring, and I hope others follow suit. Again, there needs to be a change, and starting locally is the best way to bring that about.
I think you were saying that you just thought Kamala was going to win. You were pretty confident.
I remember leading up to the election, just seeing all the rallies she was holding and seeing the difference between her events and Trump's events. I was like, oh, she's got it in the bag. Which, I'll say, hindsight, do I wish she would have won? Absolutely, because I think we'd have avoided so much heartache right now. But I have to think, okay, I probably would not have gotten as involved. I wouldn't be running right now if Trump did not win. And I'm like, I don't think a lot of people would have got motivated and honestly seen, wow, okay, and this is something else I wanted to talk about. It's really top and bottom versus left and right. I've
been hearing that message a lot lately.
And I'm like, we can focus on, sure, we could have our state legislature focus on, these 5 trans people trying to use a bathroom. Yes, we could spend our time doing that. Or we could spend time, okay, how are we going to make healthcare more affordable for Alabamians? How are we going to focus on public education with all these cuts coming? It's things like we have real problems coming and we need real solutions. We don't need to be focusing on these, I'd say inflated issues.
Culture war issues.
Yeah, cultural
right?
war issues. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a really good segue into your policy priorities, but I just wanted to real quick before we get to your policies, you got 3 big ones that I think they're really, really important that I'm excited to talk about. But so I was looking at the polling. This is where the rug got pulled out from under me, is that, I thought, man, if we are trying to pin our hopes on winning based on the economy and the border, we're screwed. Now, the economy, I tried to make this point with a lot of trolls online, and you're not going to get through that hard candy shell of their brain, but that we have a global economy. They act like COVID and inflation is limited to America. So I just, again, that's a lack of exposure. They don't know that the world, we live on this globe, that there are very highly developed nations outside the United States. But looking at the polling, the democracy started to shoot up even above some of these big ones like, the border. And I thought, oh shit, she's going to win. But what I learned after the election was that was MAGA people thinking that we were destroying democracy, not that we were headed towards this fascist authoritarian environment, which we are one. I mean, you cannot deny it. If you're well versed, you can crush anybody on any debate stage with that. So that just shocked me. I was like, oh my gosh.
I think it kind of plays into that. I mean, I really do think that the people that are celebrating all that's happening right now, it's a dual reality. They're celebrating it because they are cheering on he's hurting the people that I don't like.
That's what it is. It's haterade.
Yes, and it's like, okay, well, when, he comes for them, starts affecting the programs that they use, I think that they will change their tune, but it's very unfortunate that it's just how the world is right now.
Because it will become, it's just going to, that divide it's going to shift from left to right to top to bottom. It's
Yep.
it's moving in like this and moving out like that. So yeah, I'm so glad you brought it to that point. It's very, very poignant for this juncture where we're at right now. And I love to see people making that point. And I try to make that point. Hopefully you haven't read some of my derogatory TikTok comments, but I will call somebody a dumbass in a heartbeat or magatard. It's one of my favorite things. But I tried a different approach last night, and I was like, look, this is going to affect you and I both equally.
Yeah.
We're not in the top 1% or the top 10%. So we're in this together.
Yeah. And I wanted to say, you were talking about earlier that there's some Latino real estate agents that voted for Trump because they make, a good amount of money. And that's the thing. I think that the people that voted for Trump, the wealthier individuals, they think, oh, well, I'm on his side. I'm part of the rich, but it's like, no, in his eyes, you're still, you're making six figures. Yeah, but you're not rich.
You're one downturn,
Yep.
Market downturn or recession or health emergency away from being, bankrupt.
Yeah.
So that's the reality of it. All right, let's get into your policy priorities. So you've got three big ones. I don't know which one you want to tackle first. Let's start with the lottery. What do you think about the lottery?
Growing up, again, House District 21 is right on the border with Tennessee. And so growing up, I've seen when the lottery gets high, people from Alabama flock to the state line to go get their ticket.
Yeah, same with Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's
Florida, Panhandle, Alabama. So they're going in three directions trying to
Yeah.
get lotto tickets, especially now because you can be potentially a
$2 billionaire. But it's one of those things like, okay, Tennessee's the lottery that I'm most familiar with, just because I know that they have an education lottery. And it baffles me that Alabama has not. I know that the state legislature has tried and failed before to get lottery legal in Alabama. And I won't sit here and say I know the ins and outs of why it's failed in the past. But, I think it's like the people want it. And it could fund things like an education fund. And again, talking about the budget cuts, that Alabama's a welfare state. Like it or not, we receive more than we give from the federal government. We need to prepare ourselves for, to lean off of that federal money because it's not guaranteed anymore. It could be pulled out from under us, snap of a finger. And so that's my biggest thing with the lottery is, again, just insulating Alabamians from federal cuts.
Well, when you say Tennessee is what did you say, an education lottery?
What
does that mean?
So I believe that their education lottery is funded, and
There's a percentage, right, of the revenue.
Yes. Basically, 2-year college is free for residents of Tennessee because of this. And again, it's that adds value. That's investing back in your citizens.
Yeah.
And Alabama just has not done something like that.
Well, we rank, we're near the bottom. Tuberville's talking about coming in as governor and eliminating the income tax, state income tax. And a lot of people are like, well, how? That's going to crush education.
Yeah.
Where's the money going to come from to fund education? But again, we're going back to this authoritarian playbook where it's like, yeah, you keep people dumb.
Yep.
That's the goal.
I've seen that, this is a route to, you make public education so bad that the only way that people do get educated is by going private. And who does that benefit? The private school. You have to pay tuition for that.
Yeah.
And so it all goes back to money. I don't think Tuberville, I think he does not care anything about Alabamians or this. Again, with the income tax being eliminated for the state, that's the majority of how Alabama funds for things. So I don't know, again, if you're going to do that, how are we going to make up for that? It doesn't make any sense. Well, and I don't think he knows.
And just to be honest, I wouldn't mind it because, we talk to a lot of people from Tennessee and they're like, we're probably going to retire here because of the tax laws. Or we get a lot of people that decide to buy in Florida over Alabama, but there's got to be something that replaces it, and why not a lottery? So, and probably the way Alabama ranks, we need the lottery and the state income tax. You know, we need all we can get, all the resources we can get going towards education. I do feel like, maybe, Katie Britt, I'm not a fan of hers either, but she does at least voice concerns. Like, Tuberville is just a rubber stamper of everything Trump puts out. He like doubles down on it. It's like, yeah, let's due process. Who needs that? Let's bomb people on boats, whether we know they're drug in a gang or drug dealers or not. Let's kill them all. So he's all about it, which is super scary. But man, I hope you're able to impact that and push that ball a little bit forward. The other point I wanted to make before we move on is that you mentioned that this is what the majority of Alabamians want. I think everything we're going to talk about in terms of your policy positions are within the purview of the majority of Alabamians. And you look at that on a national level, like nationally, people want more responsible gun laws. Nationally, people are pro-abortion. Nationally, people are pro-gay rights. It's like 80%, it's a big majority. You've got a lot of Republicans that are pro-abortion. I just like these people, and you're seeing it in these outrage town halls, right? Which they say that are these paid protesters.
Where's my money then?
Yeah, exactly. But man, they're supposed to be representing I feel like the interests of the majority, but they're representing the interests of the special interests, which we're talking about public school, private school. It's creating that gap. And that's the goal. We're trying to wake these people up. I work lake properties. So I sell all over the state, but lake properties is a new specialization I'm really trying to develop and create this niche for myself. And so I'm riding around a lot of these rural communities, and I'm seeing people, man, dirt poor. Like their roof it's part shingle, part tin, part plastic tarp. I mean, it's bad. But they've got, I voted for the felon flag flying loud and proud in their front yard. Yeah. It just blows me away how much people vote against their own interests. All right, I want to do healthcare last. Okay. So let's talk about weed.
Okay.
All right.
That is true. So my only endorsement so far has been from the Alabama Cannabis Coalition.
Not for long. This podcast gets out there.
Yeah, it could be rolling in. But no, so for me, it comes from this thing of when this ban started, HB 455, it was signed into law in 2025, and then it started, I believe, July 1st was like the start date for it, which banned all like Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, and smokable hemp products.
Yeah.
And, this was done under the guise of, we want to protect the kids from ingesting these candies, laced candies.
Yeah.
And so to that effect, I ask you, okay, if we're going to ban cannabis, because it looks like candy, why are we not going after alcoholic drinks that are like a Sonic water, a Minute Maid seltzer, like truly alcoholic beverages that are branded for these younger people? Anyway.
Cigarettes?
Yeah, cigarettes.
Vaping. I mean, we've caught my 14-year-old with multiple vapes, so like it. And there's popcorn lung. There's a lot of things that can happen as a result of that. It doesn't make sense, but it goes back to the mighty dollar, right?
So I think that one reason that it's such a big deal for me to repeal this HB 455 is because all of the local smoke shops and even gas stations, they lost a significant portion of their revenue. I have been around locally in Huntsville to some different smoke shops where they've said that, gummies and smokable hemp was 75% of their revenue, and that's just gone overnight. It's made to be a felony now if you are caught with any of that, and so they just threw it all their product in the trash. And there's no support from the state with, okay, we'll work with you to help you figure out a different revenue source. They're just out on their own. And so I know there's a very prominent store in Huntsville that's announced that they're shutting down. And again, it's stupid to me because Alabamians were willingly spending their money on this, creating revenue for the state, and now that's not an option, and now small businesses are shutting down. And the government's telling you you can't buy something, it doesn't make any sense.
It's a double standard. It's hypocritical, but you know, it's further evidence that the Republican Party, the party of Reagan, no longer exists. How is it lesser government
Yeah,
to
exactly.
shut down a small business? You know, I didn't have a complete understanding of this bill at first. I thought that, and this is just, you know, a plug, I need to get more informed just like everybody out there, but I thought they were going to shut down or take it away from the gas stations. Like, because, you know, you walk into a gas station, it's right there by the register. So
Yeah.
the kids are seeing it, and a lot of these hemp products have, you know, the marijuana leaf on it.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe if we limit it to the smoke shops,
Yeah.
that would be better, because that's like going into a smoke shop to me is like going into a liquor store. You know, you can't even go in unless you're of age. But to hear that it was all sales, devastating these people. But plus, don't we need these gummies to get through? I mean, we're 8 months in, and it feels like 8 years.
That's my thing. Who am I to judge? Okay, you want to go buy some gummies and eat a bag of Doritos.
Yeah,
when you
so
get
now I
home.
got to start smoking cigarettes or vaping.
Again, it's not about children's health. It's not about protecting the children. It's about, okay, well, hemp sales are starting to go up. Big alcohol, ABC, they need their revenue back. So let's just, you know, pull the plug on that.
That's really sad, really sad. So I hope you're able to do something
I
about
think that quite a bit of people are upset about this, Republican and Democrat, and I think that I don't think the Alabama legislature knows how big of a deal this bill was to many Alabamians. And I would really press anyone that I would press your candidates what their support is for this bill. Is it for it, against it? And I'd press them to be for repealing it.
Shit, man, I like to press these sumbitches on who won the 2020 election. You know, like if they even stutter on that one, I'm like, it should be an immediate disqualifier.
Yes.
An immediate disqualifier. But let's get to healthcare, because this is one you've had some very personal experience with and you're very passionate about.
Yes, that's right. So my partner, we've been together for 4 years now. And I'd say about 2 years ago, he turned 26, had to get on his own insurance, and he was a contracted employee for some local schools up in our area. When he signed his contract with this company, they said, okay, you know, you're good to go, you got your benefits, but they didn't tell him since he's contracted, he'd have to reapply every single school semester, fall, spring, summer.
Right.
And so, you know, he thought he was insured. The time came, we had a medical emergency, had to take him to the hospital because he was super dehydrated. While we were there, we're like, oh, wow, he doesn't have any insurance. You know, we're like, okay, well, we did a little bit of research while we were at the hospital. And we're like, okay, it'll probably be about a $4,000 or $5,000 bill. You know, that's kind of what we're expecting. And, you know, that still kind of hurt my heart. I was like, oh, man, that's a lot of money.
Right.
But, so it was a one-night stay in the hospital. He was released later, and nothing major was wrong. Again, he was just very dehydrated. But a couple weeks later, the bill came, and it was $16,000. And we were just so shocked when we opened that letter and saw that it was that amount. You know, we make decent money, and we're like, how are we going to afford this? You know, we were looking at buying a house, and how are we supposed to afford that if for a one-night stay in the hospital?
Or wipe out any hopes
Yeah.
of a down payment.
And so what really made me feel even worse about this scenario was my partner, he contacted the hospital service and, you know, was trying to figure out ways to pay for this. And one of the options they had, they said, oh, if you pay it full cash by the end of the week, it'll be half off. You know, it'll be $8,000 rather than $16,000. And that just, I'm like, okay, how can you wave a wand? You know, it's messed up that, you know, if you can pay it in a week in cash, like what kind of official system has a deal like that? And I'd say so afterwards, my partner, he went through, they had like a service. It was a lot of work. He was on the phone with them constantly for a couple of weeks. But at the end of the day, they knocked it down because he applied for some paperwork for the hospital.
Yeah.
But the final bill was only about $1,500.
Wow.
After all said and done. But again, you had to call them, pester them, and then they were offering this half-off deal. Like, that's not the way healthcare should be in America or in Alabama. There's got to be a better way.
I think a lot of people would look at that bill and not even think that they could call
Yeah.
and do anything about it. You know, or don't have the resources, don't have the time, don't have the energy, don't have the intellect, whatever it may be. It's one of the big things that's really wiping out people's savings, adding to the homelessness problem in
Yeah.
America. It is a big damn deal. And, all the right has is concepts of a plan. I mean, they have never been able to fix this. And actually, Alabama has been so resistant to, the Affordable Care Act and trying to really grow that program.
So expanding it.
Yeah.
In the long, I think Alabama is one of only 10 states that has not expanded Medicaid, and that'd be something I'd be fully behind, because it would cover, it would be hundreds of thousands of Alabamians would be covered. And it's not like these people are just worthless, not working. It'd be people working, I believe, I won't say a number because I don't want to get it wrong, but it's people that would be working minimum wage jobs would be covered, and I don't see how anyone could be against that, because these people are working. How are they supposed to afford $1,000 insurance plan a month if they're being paid $7.25 a month or an hour?
Right.
So.
Yeah. I would say this to people that are watching, listening. So if, you're an owner of a hemp shop, or you're about to go out of business because of the passing of the law restricting, Delta 8, Delta 9, to reach out to you. Like if you've been devastated by healthcare, to reach out to you so that you can, share their stories, because this, like the big beautiful bill, is starting to impact people and start to impact rural hospitals. But that's another thing we talked about, is there's just not enough in these really rural places access to quality health care.
Yeah, some counties I don't even think have an ambulance anymore because there's no funding. And that's what expanding Medicaid would help provide these services. It's, again, not giving out checks to welfare queens or whatever the right says. It'd be making sure your rural hospital stays open so you're not having to drive an hour and a half to the next emergency room. Because, those minutes matter. And if you're having to drive a county over, your chances of surviving have dramatically reduced.
It's interesting to me, like in this faith conversation, that even like the Christian community, correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but there seems to be an association with your level of Christianity, your level of faith is directly associated with how much income you have. Like if you are a big donor to your church, you're like, you are one of God's chosen people.
I think that in this day and age, I think you hit the nail on the head, because again, it's wild to me that there are people that truly think that Donald Trump was saved by the grace of God. This is what he was meant to become our president, and he is, again, ordained. And there's people that believe that. Meanwhile, he's actively pulling funding from poor people, adamantly hurting our most vulnerable. And those are things that go against the teachings of Jesus. And it's just kind of, again, just shows that hypocrisy that we're just currently living in.
Hey, fellow Blue Dots, don't forget you can find all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button, and we would love a review. Okay, now back to the episode.
All right, y'all, welcome back. We are with Landon Britton, who is running for District 21.
21. That's
21.
correct.
And that covers Hazel Green,
Meridianville, a little bit of New Market, Morris Mill, and then downtown Huntsville.
Okay, awesome, man! What a great area.
It's growing like crazy, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I'm sure people are excited that Huntsville has just been recently named the Rocket City by Trump. He created that name.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get my bumper stickers now. Now that it's official. So.
Well, we're going to get into the youth factor next and how that is impacting your campaign. You, again, are a 27-year-old man. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but people are asking, because you look young, people are asking you, how old are you? How much experience do you have? What is your response?
Well, it's funny. I'm realizing now, I'm at the age now where I have to really second guess how old I am, because I'm actually 26. I'm like, wow, it's 2025.
Yeah.
So I'm 26, not 27.
Oh my God, so even younger.
So, but yeah, that's definitely I've only started, my campaign started last week. So really pretty new to this.
Yeah.
But in the posts that I have made, you know, people have already been like, how old are you? And, you know, when I respond, they say, oh, well, you're just a child. Oh, your brain just stopped developing or something like that. You know, which I get, you know, I definitely wish that more young people would get involved in politics. But I'll say this, I meet the requirements. The minimum is either 24 or 25. And, you know, my biggest thing is I may be young, but I will be having to live with the decisions that our lawmakers are making right now. You know, there's people 80 or 70, 80, even 90-year-old people in our federal government and in the state that, you know, they should be retired. They should be sipping their pina colada in their retirement home, you know.
100%.
But instead they're making laws and regulations about women having babies, about people going into bathrooms. You know, it's time for a new generation to step up because, again, it's our future that's at stake.
Well, I'm looking up here David Hogg, who was vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. They forced him out because he was speaking too much honesty, specifically about this issue of having age limits, you know, and primarying people that are too old or, you know, are not coming up with, you know, new ideas. You know, they're not driving the future of the Democratic Party. So they got him out, but 25 years old.
Yeah.
You know, so it's amazing to see somebody his age. But, you know, there's a lot of smart people making this point. You know, I talked about to you, hopefully introducing you to one of my personal heroes. We talk about him a lot on this podcast. Scott Galloway, he's got an amazing podcast, does with Jessica Tarloff, who's on The Five, sits on that panel on Fox News, and the two of them together are just amazing. I mean, I love her so much. But Scott talks about how these people that are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s are, you know, creating, supporting, co-authoring policy that serves people in their age demographic. Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, young people like you are going to be screwed when you're their age. Mm-hmm. You know, kids, grandkids, younger generations, whether it's the environment, the economy, social rights, civil rights, social justice. I mean, these are all things that the majority of us care about, but we've got this minority of old white folks that want to keep the status quo. Yeah. And that's got to change. And it's never going to change. You know, I think that the very least that could come out of this for you is that you know, if you come up short on election day, you know, you can sit back and go, man, I did something.
That's I'd say the root of it all. You know, I want to, my biggest thing is in 2024, I think at my ballot, there was only 3 Democrats on the ticket. There was more independents running, or no, it was more libertarians running on the ballot than there were Democrats. And it's just, you know, Alabama has this stigma from the rest of the country that, oh, well, they voted this way. And it's like, okay, it's a much more complicated issue than that. You know, yes, people voted this way, but it's because there's no other option.
Right.
And how is that a democracy? You know, people gripe about, and this is one other thing. Yes, I know I'm young, but people have griped about the same thing for the past, 20 years. Or people have griped about the same things for the past 20 years. But living has not really gotten any better. And the Alabama Republican Party has had a supermajority in the state for at least 10 years. I do know that. And so, again, nothing has happened to make your life better. So why do we keep on voting for the same people? And not even, I'm not just trying to hate on Republicans. You know, I'll say I'm running as a Democrat, but I've been very frustrated with the leadership, in the state party and in the national party. Again, what David Hogg was doing, I wholeheartedly support. We need to have people primaried, that have just been in the position for, just because you have been elected, 4 times in a row, that's great, but that doesn't mean that you're just guaranteed, a 5th time. We need to have options. And I hope that's something I can wholeheartedly get behind, is having options.
Well, one thing we try to do on this podcast is be a little bit fair and balanced. I mean, you and I were talking in our pre-interview about the evolution of Fox News to state TV, but they used to have Alan Combs on there, but they still have Jessica Tarlow. But for the most part, that news program, like, they specifically lie, or they specifically don't cover things.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me, but I like to let people know, like, hey, I own a lot of guns. Hey, I was disappointed in Biden not being a one-term president.
Yeah.
Because at the time, he was the only person that could beat Trump, and one and done, and it was supposed to be, let's let somebody younger come in, and he didn't do it. So I was not happy with Kamala Harris's board czar at all.
Yeah.
Or him waiting so long to take executive action on the board. So I think it's just important, to let people know that, hey, we're patriots, or we're Christians, we're gun owners,
I'd say it was big on that too, that I feel like we see on the Democratic side, but not really from Republicans anymore, is being able to criticize people in your own party.
Yeah.
I know that there have been people speaking out against Trump, but for the most part, like Tuberville, he's just a rubber stamp. We need to have people that are willing to say, okay, our party screwed up with this, or this person's policy decisions I disagree with. This is what I'm offering instead.
Yeah.
That's healthy, and I feel like people kind of see that as taboo, but it shouldn't be that way.
Well, I mean, even Katie Britt, who I feel like is not a good representative. Let's just be kind to her, I guess, give her some grace. But like, she even spoke out and said, hey, UAB, University of Alabama, the medical research they're doing is like phenomenal. These are phenomenal organizations doing great work. They're saving lives. They need that money. But Tuberville's is like, nope, to hell with them. All right, let's shift to experience. And this is one where, again, double standard. The Republicans seem to welcome anybody that has no experience. Mm-hmm. They want the outsiders. But when it comes to, younger folks or less experienced folks in the Democratic Party, it's not so. That mm-hmm. same ideology doesn't exist. What are your feelings on, just, you don't have any experience, in politics.
It's something I'm not trying to hide. I would be new to this, but it's something that I'm willing to give it a shot at. I think that really what's core at my campaign is, and what I believe is, we need to have more public servants, not politicians. And I want to serve the people that elect me. Do I know off the top of my head how to file procedural motion, if that's even a thing? No.
Yeah.
But I know that I will learn how to do things the correct way. But just knowing at heart that I have their interests is what I really hope can sway quite a bit of people, because that's why I'm doing this.
Well, you can tell that you have empathy. I can tell you're a good listener. To me, that is like much more beneficial to the residents of Alabama than being in the pockets of, wealthy corporations and serving interests that don't serve the majority of Alabamians. And the bright, shining example of somebody with zero experience, who I feel like is a complete moron, is Tommy Tuberville. So, his experience has shown he's a failed senator. He has failed us as a
He's
senator.
admitted that he didn't like the job.
Yeah,
too.
and just did it's just done a horrible job. And anytime I see him on TV, I'm like, all right, let's say something intelligent here. It's just he's just a babbling buffoon. And so, I think you're absolutely right. It's about what's in here. Mm-hmm. And what's your motivation? What are your intentions? Why are you doing this? And I feel like a lot of these politicians, so my stepdad was in the state house as a Republican for over 30 years, mm-hmm. Served well into his 70s. And I think he just got addicted to it. Like it gave him something to do. Mm-hmm. He wasn't, going to sit in a recliner and fade away and die. It was just, he felt like he was important.
Yeah.
But I kept telling him, I was like, man, let's enjoy life. Like, this is your golden years. Like, put this behind. Let's go do something else. Nope. just would not give it up, and really he died. He got a terminal illness, and that's what happened. He didn't give up until his life was taken from him, which is very, very sad. But there's countless people like that, and I would say I think we've already established, in that vein of fair and balance, that there's probably definitely a lot of Democrats in that state house in Montgomery that are total buffoons, who are just there because they want to, it's an ego thing for them. That's what it is. And so no matter what side of the aisle you're on, even if you're independent, it's like, where are you coming from? Do you have any strategies to try to connect with, these disenfranchised conservatives out there that, we know the population is growing? Are you extending olive branches to those folks?
Yeah, so I'm looking at, what matters to me in my campaign is, again, the people of District 21 seeing me out in the community. Again, I was born and raised there. It's my home now. So I want to host some really local, even if it's just a tailgate, just to get to know our neighbors, to bring people together. Because, I know I touched on some of my big issues. I'd say statewide issues like the hemp ban, lottery, healthcare. But, I'll say on a district priority level, our district's one of the fastest growing in the state. Yeah. Especially with Space HQ being announced that it's going to be relocated to Huntsville. It has grown so much. When I was in school up there, it was majority fields. It would take 30 minutes to get from the state line to downtown. Now it's majority just suburb after suburb, and I want to get our community together, for one, to welcome the new people, but also to say, hey, I want to help communities like that incorporate to become a town, to have a better say of what gets built and how it gets built. My point is that the growth that's going on is unsustainable. It's sprawling, and it's destroying family farms that have been there generations. And a bunch of these farmers probably did vote for Trump. And so, I want them to know, hey, just because I'm running as a Democrat doesn't mean I'm your enemy. I'm trying to protect your land so you can have a livelihood and live in this area that you've called home. It's amazing. It's just amazing how well-meaning, candidates like you are, how well-meaning the party is. It's received with such hostility. It's crazy. Yeah. All right, so going to give you a big picture kind of talking point here to think about, but we're sitting here 4 years from now. You've been successful. What's the one thing you hope people say has changed because Landon Britton went to Montgomery? Wow. Man, that's quite the question. I hope that my campaign is successful in bringing together people with different political leanings, again, just to work for all of us. I hope that in 4 years, if I win, that I'm able to look back and say, yeah, I helped Hazel Green get their resources together. Yeah, I helped 100,000 Alabamians afford health care. I helped. Yeah. That's my goal, is to say I was able to help. That's going to be a powerful thing when people come to you and say, my husband would have died had you not helped him, pay for this operation. My hope for you is much more, the window is much tighter. Like, I hope that this is just the beginning of a journey, because, if it doesn't work out the way that you hope it will on election day, I hope you get the bug. You could be, like, city council, you could just start this, and who knows where this would lead. This has definitely opened some avenues of, again, I've really enjoyed connecting with people in my community and just talking with them about what issues they have. And I hope that what would be a successful campaign for me is to help build that community. Again, the neighborhood cookouts, hey, let's go watch the football game, even though you voted for Trump. Yeah. And you can watch a football game with me, and at the end of the football game, you will not be turned gay. Yeah, exactly. It's not airborne, I promise. Yeah. So. Oh my gosh, people. Yeah. It's absolutely nuts. All right, so, real quick, before we get to how people can get in touch with you, do you think there'll be a debate
between you and your opponent?
I'm not sure. I actually have not talked with Rex Reynolds. That's the Republican candidate.
He's probably not taking you seriously at all, you think?
I will say he probably has my age, my experience at the forefront.
Yeah.
I do hope that my campaign gives him some well, from what I understand, Rex is a good guy, so I would gladly, talk with him, have a debate. I'm just a normal, average Joe, so, I'd welcome that. I just hope I don't sound stupid.
Well, I mean, it's I just think that shows a hell of a lot of courage and character. It just speaks to, who you are as a person, because, I mean, like, putting yourself out there on social media, something you've never done, much less run for office or be involved in politics at all. I don't even know if you describe yourself as an introvert or extrovert.
I definitely would say I am an introverted extrovert.
Okay, so, this is painful for you. Like, I mean, not just doing things like this, but just, putting yourself out there. We mentioned, the trolls, and, I mean, who knows, you get further into this, if you start to challenge Rex, you might get some death threats.
Yeah.
This may affect your partner in some way negatively. It could affect your family some way negatively. Your mom could be getting a stank eye at the Piggly Wiggly. I don't know. So
she'd be giving it right back, let me tell you.
She would. Well, good for her. Well, are you comfortable sharing with, you have to be comfortable sharing. You have no choice but to give us all your contact information.
Yeah, so right now I'm on TikTok and Facebook. You can find me on TikTok at Britton.for.Bama. And then my Facebook, if you search Landon Britton for Alabama House District 21, should come up. I'd love to get on more sites. You can also email me at BrittonForBama@gmail.com. And that's FOR, not the letter 4.
Okay.
So
that's amazing. So you're welcoming people to send you an email, send you a DM on social.
Yes. Oh, I have a website as well that just launched, and that is
voteforbrittonforbama.com. I love the pops up. Are you registered to vote? I mean, that's another thing that has been happening as a very positive side effect of, I think, this youthful invigoration in public politics. Is a lot more people registering to vote.
Yeah.
Tay Swift, getting a lot of people to register to vote. Tay 28. We'll see what happens. But hey, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me on. Y'all were my first podcast I've been on. So.
We're trying to get around to as many Democratic candidates as we can. Mm-hmm. Man, I would love to have some Republican candidates on, but I know that's probably not going to happen because, man, I would just be relentless with, how are you sitting by and letting this happen? You don't think this is a problem? But anyway, good luck to you in your campaign, and I hope that you come back and join us again on the Raised Red Living Blue podcast.
I would love to.
Thanks, Landon.
Thanks.
Politics of fear and hate are wrong. We love you and we support you.
But America,
love are right.
we are not going back.